Thank you for listening to this week's message from Go Church. We hope it encourages you today. For more information about Go Church, check us out online at letsgo.church. We hope you enjoy today's message.
It was brought to my attention just minutes ago, it was brought to my attention that in the front row of the auditorium today, we have every single seat filled by teenagers and people who are part of Go Youth. Why don't we go ahead and give it up to them? Sitting in the front row. So proud of you guys. Listen, it takes everybody, every part of the team, the old and the young, okay? It takes all of us. Every part is important, even the Jack guy. If you were here last week, you know what I'm talking about, the Jack guy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, hop online and watch last week's message. We're talking about the value of every person, every position in this series. It takes all of us. And I want you, for a minute, to rewind in time, those of you who are older than the front row, okay? You're older than the front row. Go back, and I want you to think about the glory days of your sporting career. Okay, I want you to go back to the sports, all right? All the awards, all of the things that you did when you were younger. I want you to go back to your sporting days, and I want you to think about all of your teammates, and then answer this question. How many of you have ever had an annoying teammate? Some people raise their hand fast. Right here, it was like, yes, on the hockey team, absolutely. A puck hog, maybe? I mean, think about the annoying teammates in your life. Normally, it's ball hog activity, right? I grew up playing basketball, football, but basketball, man, the ball hog is the worst, unless they're like 6'10" and dominating and scoring 60 points. The ball hog is the worst. You can have the ball hog mentality, not just in basketball, but you can have it in football, you can have it in soccer. I guess maybe you could have it in hockey, the puck hog, maybe in pickleball, jumping over into the other person's spot all the time. The person who is selfish. Now, conversely, I think an amazing teammate is somebody who's willing to share, like a Joker on the team. The Nuggets, man, he is triple-doubling all the time, working it, adding value, scoring the points, but spreading it around. That's why they're so amazing. I love that. An encouraging teammate is an awesome teammate. Somebody who will say, great shot, good D, way to hustle, way to get back. Even when you make a mistake, that teammate that says, that's all right. Keep trying. Shooters got to shoot. Keep shooting. They didn't tell me that. They told Becky that. But I've heard about that. Shooters got to shoot. But it's those encouraging teammates that are fun to play with, right? Building you up, helping you bounce back when you make a mistake. I want us to channel that feeling of an amazing teammate today. Somebody that will encourage you, lift you up, build you up, instead of tearing you down. Teammates. I remember when I was in the 8th grade. It was right after 7th grade. 8th grade, I'm playing basketball for the school team, and I get called up to the high school practice. It was me and another friend. We got called up to varsity practice. Now, we were at a smaller school in 8th grade, and so when we walked into the gym of the high school, it was like boys walking into manland. I mean, I walked in and it was loud. Everything was like loud and big and fast, and they were dunking the ball. The only thing I could dunk was a donut. I mean, they were like, alley-ooping each other, cussing. I mean, it was just manland. And me and my friend were like, oh, look, these are the guys we'd come and watch play. We were all intimidated. So we're playing a scrimmage. So it's live scrimmage, and for some reason, they had a couple of 8th graders out there. So we were on like second string defense. Okay, so we were running up and down. It was first string offense. So I was defense, zone defense, top of the key, and they were running an offense kind of similar to the Nuggets, where they will pull the center out to the top and run some stuff through them, do some pick and roll. They would come down. But I was at the top of the key guarding the center. Now, the center on this team, his name was Raymond Poindexter, and he was talented. He was going D1, and I was in 8th grade. Okay, I'm not even kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I know every good story deserves some embellishment, but this is not. embellishment. He was 6'10". At that time, I was 5'10". Skinny, nothing, 8th grader. And so they passed the ball to him. He's top of the key, and I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? If he would just stand there and hold the ball up, I couldn't even jump and touch it. I mean, it was like, I'm like this, and he's like this. Well, he's up here, and I can tell he's gonna sweep the ball down, right? And do a pass or move or something. I can see it coming. So he's coming down, and I'm like, the only shot I have is the quickness. When he brings the ball, when he sweeps it through, I'm gonna swat this ball, and I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna go fast break, and I'm gonna go lay up because I couldn't dunk. That wasn't in the cards. So here comes Raymond. All the way from 6'10" at the top, he swings it down, and I go in just as hard as I can, as hard and as fast as I can, and I miss the ball. But I slap him on the forearm, and you know, sometimes like if you clap, you get that right contact. You know, it was the contact was there, and it like echoed off of the walls, and psh, 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 and he just stops, and I'm like, oh no. And I feel like he's about to stomp me. I mean, he's so huge, and he's looking at me mean, and everybody stopped moving, and they got all quiet, and they were like, he's gonna die. Raymond, going D1, star player, got slapped on the arm, like leave a hand mark on the forearm by an 8th grader. He is going to stomp this kid in the ground. And I remember looking at him like this, and he's kind of looking down at me like this. And then a little wry smile kind of broke across his mouth. And he's like, the big, deep voice, I can't even emulate it. It was like, big, deep voice, he like, that's all right, little man. Good hustle. And I was like, I mean, he could have crushed me, could have embarrassed me, could have kicked me off the court, but I thought it was amazing because he called me little man. And I got to keep playing, and everybody just blew it off, and it was fine, and it was cute, instead of being the stupid thing that an 8th grader did. In a moment where it would have been so easy to just demoralize me, just crush me, he turned it around and he encouraged me a little bit. I totally missed the ball, totally smacked his arm, but I did it at 100 miles an hour, and I tried as hard as I could try. And I want us to really channel that feeling today, that we have an opportunity in Go Church in our life to either build people up or tear people down. Pick people apart or build them up into the potential and what they could be. And I want us to channel that Raymond Poindexter, that feeling of what God can do in our lives. I want us to remember today that God is for us. He's not against us. You may have walked into this place today feeling a little discouraged, a little tired, a little worn out, feeling like you just got slapped on the arm by life. I want to encourage you that God has something positive to say to you today, and that where God is, joy is there, strength is there, potential is there. And I am believing for great things today. Do you believe that, Go Church? I'm believing that God can do something great in our heart today. So we're going to receive some encouragement, and I want us to learn how to give some encouragement. So grab your communication card, this guy right here, right on the top, write this down in the back. Write this down. It takes all of us to stay encouraged. It takes all of us to stay encouraged. Now, I want to share something encouraging with you. Over the last 2 weeks, we had a little whiteboard full of cards, and each card represented an opportunity for somebody to jump onto the Go team to serve, to try to make 2 worship experiences happen. Each card represented an opportunity. And then over the last 2 weeks, we had every single card pulled off of that board. And look at this. Each card represents, go ahead, if you're going to, each card represents a person. Each card, and look at all these orange cards. All these orange cards are Go Kid cards. And I'm so excited about that. This is the picture behind me. It literally is these cards. And I am so encouraged. Can we give it up to God that God's growing our team, growing Go Church, doing amazing things? Listen, today's a day of encouragement. So look, we're going to jump into 2 Corinthians 7, 5 through 6. If you're new to church, if you're new to Go Church, new to this idea of Jesus, God, 2 Corinthians, it's a book in the New Testament. The Bible is broken down into 2 big sections, Old Testament, New Testament. This letter to the Corinthians, we call this 2 Corinthians. This is the Apostle Paul writing to this group in Corinth, and the principles apply to us today. Check this out. This is verse 5. Paul's writing, when we arrived in Macedonia, there was no rest for us. Have you ever felt that? Every young parent, nod your head. Yes. No rest for you. No rest for us. We faced conflict from every direction. Now, this is to the parents of 2-year-olds. Conflict in every direction, with battles on the outside and fear on the inside. This is a guy who wrote a huge percentage of the New Testament, that started churches all over, was a missionary. God used him to perform miracles. He's seen God's power. He's having a bad day. Just because you're having a bad day or a bad week doesn't mean that you are stuck in evil. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean that your faith stinks. Sometimes good people experience bad times. So Paul is in the middle of this challenging, tiring, conflict everywhere, fear on the outside, fear in the inside, but God. Everybody say, but God. But God. God intervenes. But God, who encourages those who are discouraged. If you came in today a little discouraged, there's good news for you. This is God's business. God, who encourages those who are discouraged, encouraged us by the arrival of Titus. When Titus showed up, Paul felt some optimism, some encouragement, okay, all right, I think we can do this. It's kind of the same feeling that I had when all of these were turned in. It was like, all right, I'm looking at these, I'm getting encouraged. I'm thinking about what God's doing, people responding, God moving, God growing Go Church, God growing Go Kids. It made me feel maybe just a sliver of what Paul felt when Titus showed up on the scene. I'm encouraged by this. Paul was encouraged by Timothy. So I want to kind of challenge you, and I want to encourage you. Maybe you're in a zone where you're feeling a little bit like Paul. A little tired. Work's been rough. You've been going and going and going. You've been traveling and traveling. You've had some difficulties on your team. You've been trying to get it figured out, and you are just tired. Maybe you're like Paul and you're experiencing some conflict from every direction. Maybe you feel like you go to work, conflict, come home, conflict, kids, conflict, spouse, conflict. Everywhere you go feels like conflict. Somebody's not happy. You're facing some battles on the outside, some fear on the inside. I want to encourage you that you serve a God who gets it. He sees it. Jesus gets you. He knows about it. And he has something that he wants to do in your life today. Do you believe that, Go Church? We don't serve some guy in the sky who's busy and aloof and doesn't understand what's happening. Jesus understands all about trial, temptation, conflict, betrayal, people leaving him when he needed them most. Whatever you're feeling, Jesus gets it. He gets it. You're not alone. So when you pray, you're praying to somebody who understands the ups and the downs of life. Here's a gut check question for you. What if people in your life felt like Paul did when Titus showed up? What if people in your life felt like that? Like when you show up, they feel like Paul did when Titus showed up. Okay, they're here. Something good is going to happen. They always elevate the energy. I know they're going to help me figure this out. I've got somebody on my side. They're going to build me up. Like the great teammate has just showed up. They're off the bench. They're in the game. This is going to get better. What if people felt like that about you? That's a great question to think about. I've been thinking about it. So I want to give us a couple of things and ways to apply this. So write this down. 2 big actions today. Here's the first one. Write this down. Encourage others daily. Everybody say daily. Daily, every day. Encourage others daily because discouragement never takes a day off. Discouragement is always clocked in. Always, just like the enemy. The enemy never takes a day off. The devil doesn't take a day off. Discouragement doesn't take a day off. So we need to encourage each other all the time, every day, because it never takes a day off. You never hear, oh my gosh, I am just too encouraged. If somebody else comes to me and says, good job, way to go, I think I might just explode. I mean, if somebody leaves me another comment about how awesome I've done or something that I've done that's helped them, I think I'm just going to get off Facebook. That's it. I'm out. You don't ever hear that, right? Discouragement never takes the day off. That's why we, as followers of Jesus, should be proactive in raising the encouragement level of everyone that we interact with every single day. Discouragement doesn't take a day off, but guess what? Neither does God. Hebrews 3:13 says this, encourage one another. What is that word? Daily. It doesn't say encourage one another every year at Easter. You know, encourage each other. It's not like the couple, has been married for 30 years and she's like, how come you don't ever tell me that you love me anymore? And the husband's like, well, when we got married, I said, I do and I love you. And if it changes, I'll let you know. Daily. I just think it's interesting that Paul says daily. As long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. So Paul here is quoting, if you read the context of this, now remember in Go Church, we always understand the Bible in context. That means that we work hard to understand what's happening before a verse that we read or after a verse that we read. We want to understand, how does this verse fit into that chapter, fit into that book, fit into the New Testament, fit into the Bible, okay? So it always has to make sense in context. So Paul, who I believe wrote Hebrews, just quoted Psalm 95 and read this psalm that began with today. And so Paul took this idea of today from Old Testament, brought it into New, and said, this is relevant. This principle of God is relevant to now, today, this moment. And 2,000 years later, it is still relevant and applicable to our life right here and right now. I just think so many times we underestimate the power and the potency of encouragement. I was meeting with a guy at Einstein Brothers in Town Center. We were crushing some bagels, crushing some coffee, talking about a job situation. He was trying to figure out what job to take, not take, direction in his life. We finish up, and the weather's horrible. Like now, this last week. It was the mix of like snow, rain, the snow rain, the wind, and it was cold. It was just nasty. And so I saw this lady pick up a mobile order, and this mobile order was big. Multiple boxes, carafes of coffee, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, the weather stinks. I'm getting up, we're about to leave. And I said, hey, can I give you a hand carrying that to your car? She's like, oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. And so grab some things, craft, coffee, some bagels. We're able to get it all in one trip instead of her having to go back and forth 2 or 3 times, go to the door, hold the door open, and go out. It's nasty weather. Get to her car, we load the stuff up, and I gave her an invite to church. I'm like, hey, it's great to see you. She said some nice things. And honestly, I thought I'll never see her again. The man of faith. I'll probably never see her again, never hear from her again. That's not the point. And so I give her a card, though, because every Jesus-following, Go Church attending person should have invite cards on them all the time. That's why they're designed 3-inch by 3-inch. That way they fit into the wallet or they fit into the purse. They're always accessible to the people. Don't want to expand the kingdom here. You're part of Go Church. So give her an invite. Ironically, I don't have any invites on me today, but we're in Go Church. And she writes me this email later. She takes the card, she sends me this thing. And this is verbatim what she wrote. She said, I meant to reach out sooner, but I seem to have misplaced your business card in my bottomless mom purse. I wanted to reach out and again express my thanks for your simple act of kindness, helping to carry the bagels and coffee to my car during the blizzard. I'm so thankful that we have kind souls in our neighborhood. I thought a lot about it since that morning, and through that act, I saw Jesus in our neighborhood. I smile thinking that I could have actually been anyone, and you still would have offered to help, and that whoever it may have been would have experienced the love of Christ that morning. It seems so simple, and maybe you carry bagels for people most mornings, but it has resonated with me since that morning. So thank you again for doing more than just offering to lend a hand. Thank you for reminding me that Jesus' love is real and he is present among us. This made an impact on her. But honestly, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. It was just like, man, it's nasty outside. I'm going that way. I'm going to help you grab this thing. But see, that's the deal. We don't evaluate whether we help or don't help based on if we think it's going to be a really good thing or a small thing. We just do. Because you never know. That small little thing evidently made an impact on her heart. And it feels amazing to be a part of small moments like this. And I want you to have your own bagel stories. I want you to have that. I want you to have that feeling of having a bagel story. And you can't do it without carrying some bagels. So get over to Einstein's, carry some bagels. When God opens up an opportunity, I'm telling you, small little things, helping somebody carry something, being nice and opening up a door. I mean, if you've lived in Denver for any amount of time, you know it is not exactly Southern hospitality sometimes. You wave at the intersection and people are like, I don't know you. A little wave, opening of the door, helping somebody carry something, grabbing their cart as you're taking your cart to the cart return because, again, you're a Jesus follower. That's what Jesus followers do. Got to return the cart. Come on, somebody. Helping somebody in your neighborhood, being available. Being a person that your neighbors feel like they can ask you for help. We have been in our courtyard long enough that, 2 weeks ago, they were like, hey, do you have a dolly? Like, yeah, I got a dolly. And plus, I got 2 teenage boys. You need help? I'm volunteering them and their strong muscles. They're not going to the gym for nothing, folks. Come on. But for you to be that beacon of encouragement where God has stationed you, in your apartment, in your courtyard, with your neighbors, at your work, where you embody this, people will start to feel like you are that teammate that is always going to elevate the energy, going to elevate the optimism, going to elevate the encouragement, that when they come to you with a question or a problem, they're not afraid of messing up, slapping the forearm, and getting called out for it. They know that you're the person that'll be like, that's all right, little man. Good hustle. You really bombed that presentation, but it's all right. I'm on your team. I'm going to help you next time, and we're going to turn this thing around. For you to become that person is so impactful and so Christ-like. Look at Hebrews chapter 10. This is Paul again. Let us think of ways to motivate one another with acts of love and good works. Let's think of ways. Let's be creative. Let's brainstorm ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together. This is all combined. Let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. Do not neglect meeting together. That is very specifically in context talking about coming together as a community to worship God, to experience his presence together. It's talking about modern day church. Don't neglect it. And the good news is I'm looking at the people who don't. You don't neglect it. You're here on a Sunday morning, experiencing God and experiencing friendship. And I don't know about you, but when I come here on Sunday morning and I see you singing, I see you lifting a hand, I see you talking to each other, I see you laughing, I see you growing in relationship. I see you remembering and taking communion and being a part of worship. It pumps me full of courage. That's what encouragement means. Being pumped full of courage and then sharing it. God never does anything in you He doesn't want to do through you. So when you come and you receive encouragement, get out there this week and empty it out. God always refills what we give away to the overflow, man. And I want to encourage you to lead from overflow, serve from overflow, not from lack. The second thing, write this down. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Now, we've been talking about other people encouraging other people. Sometimes there's nobody around you that's going to encourage you for nothing. And that's just how it is. You've got to learn how to encourage yourself in the Lord. Everybody say yourself. Yourself. Sometimes if you're waiting, that expression of waiting, holding my breath here. If you keep holding your breath, waiting and waiting and waiting for somebody to encourage you, you're going to die. Or you're going to drown. Sometimes in life, there's nobody coming to the rescue. Your spouse won't encourage you, kids won't, job won't, economy won't, interest rates won't. Sometimes in life, you look for it, you want it, and you will never find it in the things that are living and happening here. You've got to learn how to encourage yourself. Everybody say yourself. You're responsible for yourself, your attitude, your choices, your belief, how you feel over time. You are responsible for how you react to all of these things. And we have to take responsibility and encourage ourselves in the Lord. It took me like 10 years to figure this out in life and in ministry. It has saved me more than once, learning how to encourage myself. Now I want to share a portion of a story from the Old Testament. This is King David. This was when he was leading some men around battle and into warfare. So David was this leader, the same David that took down Goliath. That's the story. This is the guy. So in this moment, he experiences a defeat. Doesn't go well. Normally it went well. This did not go well. And the men, his men that he was fighting with, were mad because as they were fighting, the enemy snuck in, like flanked them, went around and kidnapped their wives and their kids. And so now David's men are upset. So upset, they wanted to stone him. In Denver, stoning, I'm talking about with rocks, okay? Wanted to pick up rocks and throw them at his head enough until he dies, okay? Now, you might think your week was bad, but I don't think any of us are about to get beat to death by rocks. So David is in this super heavy, discouraging situation, and look in 1 Samuel chapter 30, what it says. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. He encouraged himself. There was nobody else around that was going to come and pick him up, encourage him. And sometimes in life, we can kind of accidentally turn into like affirmation, encouragement junkies. Like we need to all the time be like over-affirmed that every little thing we do is so awesome and so great. Sometimes that is not there. And that is not rational to expect anyway. Sometimes in life, you're not going to find any encouragement from any other human being. So what do? You take a page from David's book and you encourage yourself. I can see David encouraging himself, almost like that pep talk, giving himself in the mirror. Listen, do you remember when God was faithful with you all the way back when you were young, taking care of your father's sheep? Here comes the bear. God delivers that bear. You kill that bear. It's a miracle. It's crazy to protect your father's sheep. Lion comes, same thing. Do you remember that? Do you remember when God gave you strength to do that? Do you remember Goliath? Hello, big, tall, 10-foot stinky dude. You took down with one sling and one rock. Do you remember that? Do you remember all the times that God was faithful when you were out serving your dad in the field? I imagine David going through the list of things in his past. And that's what I want to challenge you to do today. If you came in here and you feel discouraged, you feel down, you feel like I'm surrounded by conflict, you feel like there's nobody in my life that will encourage me, I am challenging you to look backwards. Look backwards in your life. Think about all those times that God showed up. When nobody else was there, but God was there. That time when God bailed you out. That time when you were in need and God stepped up. That time that God loved you when you didn't deserve it. And I am challenging you today to remember the promises of God, that by his stripes we are healed. That God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but one of power and love and a sound mind. That greater is he who is in you than he that is in the world. Do you believe that, Go Church? You remind yourself of who God is. You remind yourself of what he's done. And you cannot help but start to feel hope. Because God is the same. Yesterday, today, and forever. And the same God that bailed David out, empowered him to face Goliath, is the same God that's going to be with him in the present and into the future. And is same and is true for you. What are you facing? It might feel like a 10-foot tall, stinky, never had a bath, no deodorant wearing warrior in your life right now. Who knew that a 2-year-old could feel like a 10 feet tall? And you look around and discouragement, it's not escapable. You feel like you're trapped by these things. Encourage yourself in the Lord. The Bible commentator Matthew Henry's classic. He's been dead a long time, but his writings have stood the test of time. He writes this about discouragement, David, and us. Listen to this. It's not on the screen, just listen to me. Those that have taken the Lord for their God may take encouragement from their relation to him in the worst of times. It is the duty and interest of all good people, whatever happens, to encourage themselves in God as their Lord and their God, assuring themselves that he can and will bring light out of darkness, peace out of trouble, and good out of evil, to all that love him and are called according to his purpose. It was David's practice, and he had the comfort of it. What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. When he was at his wit's end, he was not at his faith's end. The good news is that the strength of our God doesn't depend on the size of our faith. God says all it takes is a very small amount of faith to see something amazing and big happen. I want you to just close your eyes and I want you to just imagine into the future where you see other people's reactions when you come into the room and it's a little smile. They sit up straight in their chair. They have this feeling of building anticipation and encouragement because you're on the scene, you're there. And when you're there, encouragement happens, optimism happens, solution happens. That you're a builder. You build people, you don't demolish people. And your reputation starts to be one of, hey, could you go get them and bring them in this. They always have great ideas. They always have great solutions. It's always better when they're here. Go get them. See if they have time to come in and talk. What if you're known in your courtyard, in your apartment building, as the person that has solution, the person that's going to bring encouragement, the person that's going to say you can do it, the person that's going to say, hey, can I help? You're going to be the person that points them to a loving, almighty, awesome God. The person that's going to smile and say, I know it's been tough, and maybe this has been the hardest time of your life, but I know a God who's helped me through the hardest of hard times, and I know that he can help you too. I'm here today to declare that in your life. Imagine living like that. Imagine having a life that's centered on God's goodness. You've learned how to encourage yourself. God is here today to encourage you. God is here today to bring light, to bring hope, to bring healing, to remind you that He is an all-loving, all-powerful God, and that the craziness and the chaos of this life doesn't mean that God is not on the throne. I want to pray today a prayer of encouragement, and I want to know who I'm praying for today. If you're here and it's been tough and it's been rough, you've been going through something and there's no encouragement to be found. You feel like Paul did. You feel tired, no rest to be had. There's battles all around, battling on the inside and fear on the inside. If that's you today and you've been feeling some of that, can I see a hand in the air and say, that's me, man. I've been going through this stuff. Throw it up high. There's people all over this room. I just want to see you. Yeah, there's all over this room. You raise that hand in boldness. I see you. God sees you. We're going to pray together right now. God, I pray for every brother and sister in this room, every person watching online that's raising their hand right now. God, you see their life. You see what they're going through. And I pray that you would speak hope. I pray that you would remind them of your promises. I pray that you would remind them that you are for them. You are with them. And God, if we believe and if we know that you are with us, it changes everything. God, sometimes the storms, they don't go away, but if we know that you're walking with us through that storm, that we can get through it. God, I pray that you would speak life and bring hope and bring healing right now to every person who's going through a rough time.
Thanks again for listening to this week's message. To stay in the know with Go Church, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at letsgo.church. You can also download our app from the App Store by searching Go Church. Have a great week and God bless.